Okay, everybody, welcome. This is going to be my first of this series. I'm right now exploring Titan, trying to get some infusion planetary materials for for one of my achievements. So this gun, which I will read some of the lore for. But on Titan, right now, I am fighting against the Hive, which the Hive are one of the alien races, specifically, one of the alien races that are allied the most with the darkness. These are the Fallen. The Fallen are more scavengers. They're not quite like the true darkness in the same way. There's different allegiances. The Hive are the closest thing to the Hive are the closest thing to pure evil in this universe. So right now we are headed back into, this is the ruins of a whole bunch of Golden Age, which Golden Age was one of those. The Golden Age was a era of peace and prosperity that humanity had never seen before, and a lot of colony ships and stuff arrived as a result. So we were exploring the ruins of one of them in exploring a treasure ship, and it is overrun by Hive. Now these Hive, this is an acolyte. Acolytes are one of the weaker versions of, there's different varieties. So Knights have a stupid shield to them, trying to get headshots for another bounty. But these acolytes are some of the lower tier. They're not gods. They're not. They serve the Hive gods. They serve these creatures, the worms, and they serve a whole bunch of other evil creatures that devour and live off of a parasitic existence. Now, that's part of what the Hive that are currently. So the Hive follow something called the Sword Logic. Now, Sword Logic is basically kind of like Darwinism, but a more cruel version of social Darwinism. And it basically has to do with how power is transferred. So, like wizards and stuff, they get their immortality and their power from the worms that are living parasitically inside them. So, these worms, as long as there's slaughter and as long as there's a continual supply of death, then it's fine. But as soon as that is now no longer the case, then that worm literally devours them from the inside. So again, parasitic relationship. The worms being agents of the darkness, which are antagonistic to the traveler and the light. Now, again, really until Destiny 2, we haven't really seen the traveler speak, other than a couple of cutscenes, which unfortunately I can't really trigger, because I've already done those quests. They're not really adventures and stuff, so. And then this chest right here is one of the Callus chests that I need Imperials for. That's fine. So these runes are going to be part of the menagerie. Now, again, I'm trying to get some runes, farming them so that I can do some menagerie runs eventually, but I'm not really at a power level to really adequately do them. And not that there's really any particular. I'm at the bare minimum. So we're going a little bit deeper in, and deeper inside is some of the habitation decks and everything. And this entire place, the Festering Halls, this is actually where some of the story missions early on, when we're reclaiming Titan for the Guardians, and it's later revealed that this entire place has been overtaken by the Hive. It once was a garden world long, long ago. It's one of the last bastions where the Traveler terraformed during the Golden Age, and then of course the collapse happened and everything fell into ruin, and now it's the place of some profane ruins. So I just meleeed that one. So here, for example, here are some of the growths that are part of Hive infestations. Now, there's different runes and all that other stuff. So, like over here are some runes carved in different languages and as part of the Hive. So, like for example, here's the scannable.
These Hive spawn pods are different from the ones we saw before. Maybe a different brood or a different generation. Gross and confusing.
Yeah, pretty much everything Hive is pretty gross. But it is a lot of fun to take them out in Hive Strike, though. That's for sure. Yeah, so these are the weakest. They're called Thralls. And then there's versions of them that are called Cursed Thralls that are particularly devastating because they blow up when they get way too close. So you want to definitely shoot them before they get close to you. So yeah, you hear the worms kind of wriggling. That's because we defeated them. And in that own way, we're kind of, by fighting the Hive, we are actually perpetuating their sword logic. There's actually a quest that is specifically after you've taken on Xol, one of the worm gods. First time you ever really encounter this worm god, by the way. And this worm god, when you take them on, you end up killing them of sorts, but because they're a god, I mean, this isn't the first time we've ever taken on, like, godlike beings in Destiny, of course, but Hive gods are something very different than Oryx. Oryx was one of the leaders of the Hive that had godlike essence, and one of the very first that transformed the Hive into what they are now. And that's part of the Books of Sorrow, which is a lore I'll end up eventually covering. But probably, honestly, you can probably get better sources than me, because I've had to actually get better sources that know the lore even more in depth. So somebody like Beard Grizzly, somebody like Myelin Games, those people that have inspired me, they're probably better bets. But I will do my best, and then of course these areas are gated off because they're part of the strike and stuff, and only accessible that way. But it's always fun to shoot some Hive and collect some resources that I need. So, and then over here are some lost sectors as well. And lost sectors are something that have existed since the history of Destiny as a franchise. However, this is really the first time in their current iteration. In the first Destiny, they were just kind of these offshoot areas. And they have sometimes have their own lore. Usually it's just kind of, you just explore an area and yeah. So over here, Sloane,
My time is yours.
Yeah. She ends up, let's see, solar kills.
Hope it works for
I
you.
can get arc kills. You can actually get all of those. And then there's different planetary gear and everything like that, which they're I'm just picking these up so I can get the bounty achievement for the Moments of Triumph, because Moments of Triumph finally went live for year 2, which is crazy that this is already celebrating almost the end of year 2 of Destiny 2. And Destiny 2, let me tell you, has had some ups and downs. So, we're actually going to go and explore one of these lost sectors that's down here. I happen to know where it is, roughly. Fight off some more Hive. Yeah, and for one of these treasure missions, like I said, I roughly know where it is. Yeah, and then these blues, but because my gear is already so high level, it's not really as big of a deal. So we're gonna kind of just go around. I went the wrong way. Because of course I did. Oh, I get turned around so much sometimes. But yeah, so this is actually an area that that's again part of some patrols, and there's actually some really interesting missions. There's actually a really cool mission that you can do a heroic version of it, basically replay it if you made the wrong choice before. And so down here somewhere down deep in the depths, there's actually a quest. There's actually 2 quests. There's one that's an adventure that's part of the daily roulette, and there's one that, and it will actually expose you. It will actually show you not expose. It will actually show you a worm-like creature. It's a massive, horribly ugly creature, and before we saw Xol, we didn't really know if that was actually like a worm, because there's lots of lore that's not really contradictory, but there's just not a whole lot that's established about what it means with the lore. So, like the implications and everything. Alright, mister. There we go. Right. Yeah, and then occasionally it will drop. Occasionally it'll just drop some really cool gear. But yeah, Titan is one of my favorite planets because, so down here is the ruins of where that old colony ship was. And there's lots of history, honestly, that they added. Really, this is the first time that they added lore that's in a much more accessible format than it was before. Because previously, in order to get the lore that you wanted, you had to go to a separate site on Bungie.net while you were playing the game, and you had to read these Grimoire cards, which is fine, but the Grimoire cards themselves were, you know, again, while you were out busy shooting things and trying to survive and get the best out of mechanics, if you're trying to understand the deeper story, it wasn't really in a super accessible form for most people, including myself. I did know the lore, of course, but so here is a high-value target, and I believe I killed it. Yes, I did. Awesome. Now if I can actually get the jump moving, there we go. You're welcome. So, yeah, as part of that solar kills. Nice. Good job. Yeah. Lore person I am, puzzle jumping person I am not. So, yeah, we're just gonna explore a little bit more, get some more kills so we can get some of these bounties done while we talk. Yeah, so I can technically do some of this stuff anywhere, but I'm just trying to do some heroic. So every year there's Moments of Triumph, like I had been referencing before, and Moments of Triumph is actually a celebration of everything that the year was before, essentially. It's kind of a neat, so those are Curse Thrall. Now, I'm not entirely sure, like, all the lore about, like, where Curse Thrall actually came from. I don't think there's actually a good explanation. That's kind of the case for a lot of the grunt enemies. We do know a lot about Crota, and we know a lot about the Hive gods, like Crota. Well, I guess Crota's more of a demigod, but point is, godlike beings among the Hive. Crota, who had Throne Worlds, the Mindbender, who is a weird abomination between Hive and Scorn, and yeah, so, and who had managed to follow the world of the rules of the Sword Logic, which we had thought previously only applied to the Hive. Like, in that the Hive were the only ones who could actually practice the Sword Logic and actually have it work. Well, turns out that's not quite accurate. Like, a lot of things we're figuring out. Like, for example, previously there were a lot of theories about these mysterious beings called the Nine, which we don't know a lot about, and we still really don't know that much about. Honestly, we know that they're otherworldly beings, and that's about it.
We've got combatants
and
nipping at our heels out
more
here.
that's being
Show
shown
them
in
the error of their ways.
the invitations of the Nine. And we're knowing more about like who the emissary is now. We know, for example, there's this emissary who is a person who interfaces with us mortals and the Nine, and there were lots of theories about what the Nine actually once were. once upon a time they may have been awoken. There's all sorts of things that way. Relieve the Kraken. Yeah, the Kraken is a reference to that gigantic worm thing that's down in the depths. So, yeah, we just got one bounty done, and then one, yeah. So here is the Lost Sector. I always get turned around. So, no smoking. Yeah. So, and again, these were old. This was back in the days where, this is, nobody has seen or heard much from these ships in a very, very long time. And honestly, when we arrived to help with, after the city has been besieged, after the Red War, where we did actually technically, for a time, pretty much every Guardian, other than us, because we're special and we're chosen by the Traveler or something. That's one of those finicky, why us? It's not really clear other than it just is. We do know, though, that there is this figure called the Speaker who claimed to speak for the Traveler, and we find out there's lots of hints in Destiny 1 before that this Speaker of the Traveler was a con man, and basically it's elaborated a little bit more in the actual context of the storyline that, yeah, this guy that claimed to speak for the Traveler didn't actually hear the Traveler, so honestly just kind of just claimed unfounded nonsense and became essentially a cult leader. Now, the Traveler does speak to us, Guardians, the Traveler's chosen. There are a couple instances where that is the case. Yeah,
I'm reading signs of hive ritual activity, Guardian.
Yeah,
Up
so
for it? You've handled this before.
this is actually a ritual that's going on, and I have to remember how to get back here. Ah, perfect.
They must really love this spot.
So
The hive do require
this
precise
actually,
positions for their
it's actually a
rituals.
really cool way to make it heroic. So you gotta basically, now it's really hard to do it solo, but you gotta basically kill these witches, stand on a tower, kill this here knight, bring down their shield. Kind of hard to do solo, but it's doable. Ow. Kind of. Ow. And there's a few minutes, so... And these witches are high-powered. Ow. Yeah, I got fire. Yeah, I don't know where everybody else is, but that's fine. Whatever. So we gotta capture these zones. Break the shield. Really? Hey! Alright, this knight is annoying me. Get out of here. Yeah, these events are harder to do single-handedly. Really? Get out of here. I'm extra squishy today. Yeah, we're gonna fail this. Okay, never mind. Nobody else is here, so whatever. I'm not that worried about it. I don't really want to show you guys a failed attempt at trying to do a mission. There's really no point in that. I mean, it's gonna say I failed it, but yeah, it's just gonna event complete.
Run away.
As we know, they'll be back.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really fail, but it's still, it's a lot easier to make it a group with other people, but nobody really wanted to do that particular mission, so it's, again, not really that big of a deal. Yeah, somebody has a machine gun. But now I'll show you the brand new Pursuits tab. That's kind of confusing, honestly. There we go. Send to the void. Get arc kills. Get solar kills. I have got 3 solar kills. Yeah. Yup. So yeah, I have lots of things that I have to do eventually, but so let's see what else. There we go. 1 solar kill. Solar kills. There we go. Beautiful. Ah! Hey, buddy. No hugs. And I'm currently have some weapons that I got doing the Leviathan raid before the Leviathan raid glitched out. So when it says they grow fat from strength, I technically cleared it, but yeah, so here's some more runes and some more worm creatures and more infestations. Like I said, this is the best way of showing off where the infestation is the most, as far as how the hive have taken over. And eventually we'll get to probably do some more strikes at some point with one of these Warlocks, because there's actually some really interesting lore with pretty much all of the strikes, even the Corrupted Strike, which I'm not very good at, because again, can't platform very well. That's the only reason I'm not great at it. But let's see. Ooh, there's some alkane dust, which I need to improve my weapon. It's right over here. That's a planetary material. Let's see. I think I have enough that I can improve that quick. My inaugural dress. And once I can get to a safe spot, there we go. Beautiful. Let's see. Yep, we're gonna apply that. Yeah, so I'm at 696 just by doing that, which is awesome because my goal is to get to 700. So what we can probably do is actually head over to Io. I believe I don't have any maps. Oh, cool. Oh shoot. What maps do I have that I need to do? I need to do this one eventually, but that one is going to take some concentration. So we're probably not going to do that one right away. Do I have any restriction maps? I might not. Yeah, I gotta have that one. 73%. This one takes forever. I don't know why I'm pointing. Nobody can see. But anyway, yeah, and do some of these pinnacle weapon quests. That the pinnacle weapons actually have some really interesting lore too. I do eventually gotta get this one for a little one to go. Yeah, grenade launcher, vinyl blows, yeah, but that's gonna not really be a thing right away. Let's see. I don't have any more map stuff, so we're gonna see if I can upgrade anything. I don't have enough. However, we can see if there's a new bounty that's available that's a little bit better, hopefully, so I can maybe do some Trials of Heroes stuff. So we're going to go to Nessus, which is where they resituated, so there's still a bunch of adventures. Arcadian Chord. Yeah, that one is very hard to do, so so yeah, it's rather difficult. There we go. So we'll just let it get into my jump ship. Maybe. Don't freeze, please. Come on. Hey. Really? Really? There we go. Yeah, occasionally there's some just really weird glitches that happen. And by the way, this particular ship that I have is a ship from, I believe, Season 2. And it took me forever to get it, just because of the drop rates for some of the exotic ships and stuff. They're just not particularly high because they're exotics, and basically what ended up happening in year 1 of Destiny 2 is, even in my case, I found that it was rather not hard to get exotics. So what is what are you today? Defeat enemies with any abilities without dying. Oh, well, that's not too bad. Let's see. I don't have enough phase glass. Definitely don't have enough. But yeah, I'm trying to eventually get these tributes so that I can eventually actually show what I'm working toward. So in the center, roughly, so this tribute I have right here is something that I've unlocked. But here, this chest right here has a glowing little green thing, and that has an exotic weapon that I really, really want, because I had it way back in Destiny 1, and I want it again. Ooh, what's this? Whee! Awesome! I got a lore entry. I'm so glad I got it. I noticed it shiny. Are there any more shinies? Let's see. Alright. Well, actually, while we're doing the lore alongs and the readings and stuff, let me just double check. Alright. So, we go over to the Triumphs page. I can actually turn that one in, get some more points toward that. There we go. Okay. And then get some more Lord Triumphs. So, this one actually has, because I dropped off what it was for some of the stuff, I don't actually have all of these, but it's supposed to be a really, really well done book. So there's all these lore books, and I only have 5 of the 10 because I haven't really sat and done a whole bunch of the ones from the lore book yet. But like the Black Armory papers, I finally finished. The Awoken of the Reef, I barely have touched. This one is actually really interesting because it does a whole lot of story about Mara Sov. Lawless Frontier I got. The Man They Call Cade, I finally finished that one. Letters from a Renegade, I'm working on that one. I finished this one, but that one's... And then Dust, I'm almost there with. Dust has some really, really interesting ones. But, Warlock Honor. So, message from Honor. My name is Honor. I serve the Hidden and the Warlock Praxic Order. You and I have never met, but I hold you in high regard. You've accomplished wonders for the city, and humanity owes you a debt it cannot repay. A marvel for one so young. But in true Guardian fashion, nothing you did for the city came from generosity. I think you want what everyone with power wants. More. A man called Drifter knows this. That man has done what past influencers could not. Manipulate Guardians into dabbling with the dark. And yet the Vanguard stands by in silence. Commander Zavala and our Core Ray know who he is and everything he stands for. They still let him bring his gambit into the system. What's more, they have forbidden the Praxic Order from interfering. It's against everything the Praxic stand for. We won't abide it, and we're looking into his activities, building a case against him even the Vanguard can't ignore. Do me a favor. From one Guardian of the city to another, you're free to keep your business with him. Just give me the chance to convince you the Drifter's not to be trusted. Message 2. Comment level encrypted message follows. Audio unavailable. Since its inception, the Vanguard has served as the city's most deterrent, and the greatest deterrent, against total annihilation of humankind, and for an age it succeeded without question. But today's Vanguard has never faced a threat like the Drifter. This man with no name and no verified history in the city's files has brought an ideological war to our doorstep. He's a greater threat than any hive god of Vex mind, because I can't walk down to the annex with a shotgun in him. The Vanguard won't allow it. They see a rogue element they can control. I see a criminal in a place of power. The Praxic Order has been surveilling Vanguard activities. Guardians like you are abandoning frontline duties so they can run rampant in the Drifter's gambit. Every mode of dark they drop in his hands means another moment that the paracausal phenomenon in the Dreaming City is left unchecked, that our enemies in dead zones across the earth push our borders. In the absence of light, even the hellmouth on the moon is stirring. This cannot last. Ontological and genocidal threats aside, Gambit encourages the use of darkness to fight darkness and other guardians. Since the city's foundation, the Praxic Order has existed to keep darkness and other banned assets out of the hands of city guardians. Despite our best efforts, pieces like the Red Death, Crimson, and certain weapons of sorrow continue to find their way into city arsenals. But even Guardian killers like those are nothing compared to the ideological threat of Gambit. Gambit leads to darkness. And darkness is the hive on the moon, tearing our kind to pieces in the Great Disaster. The darkness is the Great War, is the Red War, the Tower Fall, when the Cabal silenced the Traveler and killed thousands of the last humans on Earth in a single day. The darkness is the Vex, erasing our allies from existence, from memory itself. The darkness is one man with the power to deal final death in his fists. The darkness was the collapse of the Golden Age. The darkness is peace by annihilation in myriad ways. As a sword of the Praxic Order, it is my duty to seek out those who would consort with or study the darkness as a religious or paracausal entity. Participating in Gambit is problematic, but Guardians will go where the guns are. If the Order wants to win this, the Drifter must fall. If I can get solid evidence that bastard is causing demonstrable harm, the Praxic Order will descend on him like a second son. I know the Drifter has your ear, but consider this. There's more to being a guardian of the city than power. Message 3. Cormorant level encrypted message follows. Audio unavailable. The transcript has been bundled alongside the shattered remains of a ghost. This ghost belonged to a renegade guardian, recently deceased in a shootout with Praxic elements in the city. His guardian, an equally dead titan, went by another title, Dredgen. This pair were ideological followers of Dredgen Yor. No reason for veterans of the Red War to brush up on late Dark Age history, so in case you hadn't heard, Yor was among the first of our kind to kill another with a heretical use of darkness. Even a guardian can't come back from that. All of those who used his name in recent history belong to an outlaw group called the Shadows of Yor. No two of them can agree on Yor's true ideology, but all strive to consort with the darkness for power. According to the testimonies of his former fire teams, Drifter was one of them, and might still be. The group hasn't made an appearance in a long time. There are rumors of a few new Dredgens taking up the mantle at the behest of the Drifter. All relatively young guardians, the old Russian cohort or the Red War, not the old blood of the original group. You might be one of them, or soon could be. Just know that I've confirmed some, perhaps all, of the old blood are back in town. The ghost you hold in your hand belonged to one of them, and I would not be surprised if the renegade who hunts the shadows, the hunter who forged the golden gun himself, was close behind. I don't know why the shadows have returned, but there are possibilities. To Drifter's chagrin, I'm sure, it's no secret city guardians are playing with darkness in the form of Gambit. Maybe the shadows want to actively recruit. They've tried and failed in the past to put the use of darkness into guardian arsenals. But the Drifter and the Shadow could be at odds. The man is a loner and a cheat, building as many bridges as he burns in the guardian community. He has true allegiance to nothing and no one but himself. It's possible he's gathering Gambit regulars to defend himself from his own kind. Or the Dredgens are here to help their ally, the Drifter, with the operation of Gambit or some new unknown goal. I share all of this with hoping for your confidence. The Drifter is not to be trusted, and Involve yourself with him and the Dredgens at your own risk. Even if you carry their name, it's not too late to make the right choice. Don't end up like the ghost in your hand. He did not die well. Message 4. The Drifter is playing you. Gambit Prime isn't a get-rich-quick scheme, it's an experiment, and he's luring all of you from the tower as test rats. Till today, the heads of my order believed the Drifter was attempting to craft a throne world, much like the Scorn Barrack Hyrax did. That was the Mindbender, by the way, off the death of the Hunter Vanguard. It surprised me, but we found no evidence in or around the city that the Drifters actually ever killed anybody, although there could be a mass grave aboard that destitute thing he calls the ship. Your excursion today corroborated the stories of multiple Guardians still loyal to the Vanguard. The Drifters' Hall originated from the clandestine power known only as the Nine. The Warlock orders have only trivial information on these beings, but it would seem that the Drifter has been networking beyond forces of light and dark. Before him, the Awoken Queen was their only known associate. As of this moment, I hope I can trust you to keep your eyes open and your reports honest. As one of Drifter's Gambit Prime candidates, you are among the first Guardians to see what that bastard is doing. You're the Vanguard's eyes and ears in this. I hope you do right by them. And this is right around the time that you do your allegiance part. So, this is a transcript. What do you have? Our site's the only one watching up there. European Dead Zone, Earth, 3 Guardian fatalities. Dreaming City, The Reef, 2 Guardian fatalities. Nessus, Unstable Centaur, 1 Guardian fatality. Tangled Shore, The Reef, 3 Guardian fatalities. I know. A sudden distortion in the feed from light-based radiation. You missed, and you ruined my wall. If I wanted to hit you, you'd look like that wall. What happened to stepping on him the second something went wrong? Those Guardians knew the risk. They take them every time we raid the outer edges or run a strike. Gambit's the same. These were not Thorn incidents. In each case, non-Guardian hostiles caught ghosts unprepared. The crucibles for them as much as us. He doesn't watch those arenas like you do. He's reckless. We need him. It's working. If we lose another Guardian, he's out. Did you forget how many of us died the first night of the war? I buried all the ones I could find before the dawn. How will we stop burying Guardians altogether? Get him in line, or I'll kill him and his ghost myself. End of transcript. I stole that transcript myself. Thought you should see it. Your friends are dying on the Drifter's watch. How long before it's you? The Order is in a state of paralysis. Half of us want to restrain the ghosts of the Vanguard and the Drifter all at once and have them face practical justice, but that would shatter the peace in the city irreparably. Meanwhile, the shadows of Yore continue to have a presence in the city. No golden gun is in sight to contain them. The man must be busy. It seems the fate of this town rests on your shoulders once again. The choices you make in the coming weeks could affect more lives than any bullet you've ever fired. Consider that. And consider this. The Drifter is polluting minds, driving Guardians away from what he nebulously calls the Traveler's Dogma. He's turned a lot of minds onto the idea that darkness is a tool worth using. This city was built on a foundation of fighting the darkness and everything it stands for. The erasure of order, individual empowerment over the common good. The Hive and the Taken live to serve their gods. The Traveler empowers humanity to live. He says otherwise, but the Drifter is not above system. That armor he's offering you in his so-called reckoning represents a choice in a system of his making. He's just here to disrupt the natural order for personal gain, and he doesn't care who dies for it. The Vanguard is relying on you more than ever. Against the Drifter, against themselves. You'll know what to do. I have Dredgens taught. Message 5. Oh, we already did message 5. Never mind. Message to Anar. And basically, it's talking about the hull, which is at the base of the ship, which there's going to be more lore things, which I'll talk about on another episode. This is stellar casework, and I'm glad you stayed the course. Having a hero of the Red War go rogue and side with the Drifter is not a scenario I wanted to consider. You provided critical information on the Drifter's operation, but I need to know who his facilitators in this system are. Someone's providing him with raw materials to build his gear, and I know his accounts of the city don't have the kind of glimmer to pay. Vanguard territory has been flooded with rogues since Gambit became the tower's favorite pastime, so it could be anyone. My ghost made some microphones with you, infused with Praxic wards. We put them through rigorous durability testing. Anything short of the impact point of a Sunbreaker's hammer, and these things will keep recording. Bug the Drifter's hovel in the annex and find out who's supplying him. I'm off to the lower boroughs of the city to see if I can head off one of the Drifter's shops in person. Praxic Flame be with you. Message 7. I got the feed from your ghost. Head to Titan if you're not halfway there already. Drifter and the Spider have worked together on occasion, but it can't benefit Spider to let the Drifter expand his influence in the system, so why help him? I wonder if the Shadows of Yore are involved. Maybe pressure on the reef at Drifter's benefit? Local hunter dens are reporting renegade incidents across the shore. I haven't been out there since Cade died. Gambit's been generating a lot of paperwork for me. I'll check it out. Message 8. Drifter wants a bullet to the head. If not for the Vanguard decree, I'd oblige tonight. Your trip to Titan let me round up a couple wannabe dredgens out of the tangled shore. No casualties, civilian or guardian, and a half-dozen perps and their ghosts restrained. Drifter was paying them to transport motes to the shore. Motes are dark, stay in Gambit, there's nothing I can do. Vanguard decree means Drifter is free and clear. As soon as I see anyone carrying motes outside of that context, it's going to anyone but our red and green, their life belongs to me. Those 6 will face Praxic justice, perhaps exile. We haven't had to lock anyone up in decades. If the Vanguard thinks the Drifter hasn't changed things, I can't help them. We'll continue to clean up their messes. You're doing good work, Praxic work. If you're going to continue, I need you to keep attending Drifter's games. You're my eyes. He'll allow it. The man's desperate. Probably has been his whole life. Meanwhile, I'm looking into the 9 again. The hall was enough impetus. But that voice you heard? That was their emissary. I don't know much about her, but she's wrapped up in this mess somehow. Alright. And almost done. Surveillance transcript. You finished your project? Yes, ma'am. Planted them all this morning. Don't look at me like that. Why you look at me like that? There are simpler ways. Not everything's going to be simple, darling. I think you're a coward. Just look him in the eye when you do it. And if it goes wrong, then it goes wrong. Blows up in your face. Who cares? You're immortal. Not like it's going to kill you. This is some real Titan braggadocio right there. You know, back in the Dark Ages, there were no classes, blah, blah, dogma, blah, blah. Save it for the rookies. You get tired of the city or your bomb shelter up in the derelict, the frontier's always waiting. Surely is, sister, surely is. And then, no threat detected. Yep. And then, message 9. Your ghost passed along another couple transcripts. Broke into the derelict, did you? You've got good instincts. Seems to me that the Drifter's picked himself a protege. Probably another young war hero like you. If he's writing down his lessons, maybe he'll write down the one scrap of truth we need to nail him to the wall. Chase the rest of those tapes. In the meantime, I followed up with my colleagues about the 9. Used to be that every couple years or so, somebody would get talking to Xur, then they'd decide that they were going to be the great mind who cracked the mystery of the 9, go off to find them. Bunch of cryptarchs mostly. Couple guardians. Then the light went out during the Red War, and one last ambitious mind went out in search of a providence, a Sunbreaker by the name of Warren. She came back as the emissary, set up the trials, so the 9 were standing ready to judge the worthiest among us. For what? We don't know. It seems they like strong warriors. The disappearances have stopped since then. Should note here that the couple people called those disappearances abductions. Word of advice. Try to keep emotional language out of your reports. To the knowledge of the Praxic Order, the Nine aren't allies of the Darkness. We've got solid intel from Reeve spies that the Awoken Queen's working with them now beyond the system. Could be that they're up to no good, but whatever out there is apparently more important than all that suffering in the Dreaming City. And every Corsair I've talked to believes that through and through. I believe their belief. The Awoken have too much self-respect to live under a bad leader. Bad's different than popular, of course. Anyway, I don't think the Nine or their emissary intend to harm you. Not right now, at least. It'd be helpful if we knew what they wanted with Drifter, but that investigation is up to you. If you pursue it and you get a whiff of trouble, you tell me. Just remember the rest of us when you're out there changing the fabric of space-time, or whatever the hell it is they do. We are almost done. Message from Honor 10. Thank your ghost for me. The analytical work you've both done is worthy of induction to the Praxic Order. It's too bad the Vanguard keeps you so busy. This is the end of our investigation. Those tapes you found contain the scraps of truth that we've been hunting all this time. It's just not the truth that I was expecting. I've been looking at that man expecting a dangerous criminal mind, living, breathing evil the lives of Dredge and Yor. Instead I got, what? Tragedy? Pathos? Well, he's pathetic, alright. I've made my final report to the Order, and I am comfortable with the decree they've issued. The Drifter shall remain under close watch, but he presents no direct threat for as long as he cooperates with the Vanguard and Lord Shaxx. This brings us into consensus with the Vanguard standing judgment. The shadows of Yor that Gambit conned out of hiding have been thugs with guns and ghosts mostly. They have less bite than the Dredgens of Yor. Little wonder Shin Malphur didn't show up. These fools aren't worth his time. I'm trying to take this as a lesson in the dangers of presumption, but in my defense, the Drifter smelled like a rat. Still does. I'll see you out in the field. I've got paperwork to file. And so this is the last one that we do as part of this loyalty quest, but there's a couple more that are added. Salt mines. In a campsite on a cliff above the salt mines of Trostland, a man with a golden gun held two guardians hostage. Behind them, an ashen silhouette smoldered on the cliffside. I gave you every chance, said the man with the golden gun. Any last words? One hostage lifted his head and took a breath. Before he could speak, his skull erupted in a bloom of arc light. A void arrow lanced through the air and lodged in the throat of the second hostage. He slumped over, falling against his dead companion. The man turned to look in the direction of the shots. The golden gun blazed bright in his fist. The ghosts of the dead guardians materialized to resurrect their fallen charges, but were cut short as two restraining bands whistled through the trees and snapped across their frames. The ghosts fell, enervated by arc pulses flowing from their restraints. Loose pebbles murmured down the cliffside as 6 warlocks dressed in black duster entered the camp single file. They all carried quick-claim shotguns. The man did not move. The woman leading the warlocks stepped closer to the man. She held out a cormorant seal, fearless in the light of his ever-burning gun. Honor, Praxic Order. You're interrupting important work, he said. So the words right out of my mouth, she replied. These ghosts are coming with us. No more killing. Your reputation won't protect you. Your jurisdiction ends in the city, came the reply. These two are my problem to solve. Honor glowered. They're third-degree offenders, consorting with the darkness on a material level only, collecting and concealing illegal artifacts. We'll rehabilitate and re-educate them if we need to. And they will continue behind your backs. They're already addicted. Power corrupts. You're costing us ghosts. We need to fight enemies of humanity. These guardians represent more than potential Dredgens. Men like this will destroy you from within, based on the sins of one man. My struggle is older than yours, Warlock Honor, and it will be here when your Praxic laws are forgotten and the last city is dust. You and Shaxx and the Vanguard and all the dealmakers are going to get the city killed. The man traded his golden gun from one hand to another and sighed. Honor racked the quick claim. Her warlocks followed her lead. The man stood. Shaxx wouldn't like it if you all came home in pieces. Take them. I'll be watching. They so much as breathe wrong, and they're mine. He walked into the forest, fist still aflame. The campsite fell to darkness, and he disappeared. Secure the ghosts, Honor ordered her team, holstering her weapon to begin a thorough sweep of the site. And then District 125. The Shadows had her ghost. They had somehow gotten their hands on restraint tech. Practic tech. She'd have to follow up on that sometime, if she lived. No man with a gun, no fire team, no backup. She'd been chasing a lead on a group of new blood regents, taking her Sparrow over Viridian Bridge to a local Gunsum lab. But the Shadows were waiting for her. From a hidden vantage point on an overpass above, a single rocket from a shoulder-mounted launcher had obliterated the road in front of her. She'd been thrown straight off her machine. In that split second, she saw Bahagiri had tried to catch her in a beam of light, but with a telltale whistle and snap, a straining band had silenced her ghost. She was failing by then. She leaned into the roaring wind, transitioned her fall into a dive. The impact and temperature of the water shocked and chilled her to the bone as the breeze rained into the lake around her. She started the long swim toward shore, toward a road she knew would take her to the overpass. She pulled up onto the overpass on a hijacked pike and looked down at the smoldering wreckage of the bridge where she had fallen an hour ago. Bahagiri was nowhere in sight, but her helmet's visor picked up an echo of void discharge from a sniper's vantage. It was consistent with the launch pattern of a shoulder-mounted Countess SA-2. She patched it back to Drifter, and in return, he gave her the coordinates of 3 possible shadow safe houses in the area. Without Bahagiri, she had to import them manually into her tracker HUD. She selected the farthest one from her position and gunned the pike. By the time she pulled up to an abandoned warehouse in District 125, the Shadows had already ransomed her ghosts on several city bands. They wanted clearance to take their jump ships out of the system by midnight. Without clearance, they'd kill Bahagiri. Vanguard ignored the missive entirely. Renegades were not to be negotiated with, not even Osiris himself. And these Shadows were no Osiris. The Maglo train, coming from Core East, roared on a trail above. The next train would arrive at midnight. She could see a light on the top floor of the rust-red building and the silhouettes of several people. "I'm not on that floor," Bahagiri said. Anar started. "How?" "I hacked the restraint. It's practic tech. We've got a renegade in the order." "Worry about that later. You said you're not on the top floor?" "No, the basement. Under the street. Building's empty except for us. Don't even think without a breach you'll need a team. Or a Gjallarhorn. Don't have it either, Bigari. Don't even think about it. Didn't say anything. You never call me that unless you're about to do something stupid." Pause. She had never driven a maglev train before. She liked the feel of power in the front car, watching the world hurtle past. The train was empty. She had ordered all the passengers and the conductor off before she requisitioned it. You could convince people to do almost anything with a Cormorant seal. The turned heated control on her wrist. A series of proximity mines on the rail and the barrier that supported it exploded, and the train hurtled forward through the smoke and fire, down onto a rusted warehouse building far below. She could see everything Bahagiri could see, even in death. For those inside the building, it was like the world was ending. But her ghost was free, headed straight to the front car of the train that had impaled the upper floor of the warehouse. A pair of injured Shadows, the only survivors, were right behind her as she came up to Honor's slumped body with light. Honor emerged from the radiant column and ducked under the bleeding Shadow's haymaker, slamming a blazing palm into his gut. She burned straight through and rolled forward on the momentum, under a thundering shot from the second Shadow's hand cannon. She transitioned the roll into a stiff sidekick from the ground, shattering the man's unarmored knee. She mounted him as he fell and bludgeoned him unconscious with a rain of burning elbows. Bahagiri came up behind her. "There are 3 more bodies, somewhere under this train. What now?" Honor stood up, covered in blood and ash. "We'll take their ghosts. Alert the Vanguard. We have 5 renegades in custody." Honor found her duster in the train cab, tattered and badly burnt. She put it on, clasped her Cormorant seal in place, and sat next to the bodies, waiting for her prisoner's ghost to materialize. Her radio clicked. "No casualties. You did well," Ikora said. "Are you speaking as the head of the Warlocks or the head of the Hidden?" Honor returned. "As your friend. You slipped, but you saved it. Zavala and I appreciate your help in this. It's imperative that Drifter and Gambit continue. Yes. Honor. Yes. Are we good? We're asking a lot of you." I don't ever want your job, and the city needs that rat man's connections and his means. If he can bring Orin back to us, let's talk more in the morning. She looked out the viewport at the burning train rail above and the ruins of the warehouse around her. She supposed this was her life now. And then one more. Drifter rounded a corner in the bazaar and grabbed a cloth hanging from one of the stalls. He ducked a gate, passing through a little-used doorway into the civilian corridor. As he walked, he wrapped his cloth around himself, covering his head and hiding his face. He changed his gait and his posture by degrees as he walked, moving a little slower, hunching a little lower. When he emerged into the next atrium, it was as though he had aged by 60 years. Spotting a group of elders basking in the sun, he shuffled over to sit down as one of them. "You new here?" one of them rasped. "Always feels like it," he replied in a reedy lilt. "I know what you mean," the elder said, staring at a squad of passing titans whose armor reflected in the sky. "They always say the same," he gestured at them. "Everything around them changes on their whims, for good or ill. You're not wrong." It wasn't what he had meant. Once traffic died down, he could head straight for the annex. No guardians to pester him about rules or payout changes to Gambit. He hated going out there with the lights. Their earnestness pissed him off. He only did it because he had to eat. What he loved about Gambit was one thing, and one thing only: delectable motes of dark. The bench creaked as someone sat down beside him. He didn't bother to look up. They'd go away eventually. "Turns out your info was solid," a voice said, to my surprise. He turned to look and saw a woman, brown-skinned, crooked nose, with intelligent eyes and a hard stare. She wore a black duster and light armor underneath. A warlock. He didn't know her. "You've mistaken me, my dear," he quavered. She handed him an intricately designed slate about the size of a titan's fist, a cormorant seal. The info you sold us on the shadows was solid," she repeated. "Are you switching sides?" He blinked. "No use pretending." He dropped the axe, sitting straighter. "I'm on no side but my own. Are they alive?" The elders to his right frowned and began talking lowly among themselves. "All but one. We couldn't get there before our mutual friend started his work. Those three were idiots, chasing legends, no danger to anyone but themselves. I don't think you have a good gauge for that, but they're in custody now. If you're done, I'd like to spend more quality time with my blanket and these crusty fellows." "We listened to your protege's tapes," she said. "You bastards," he said with no fire in it. "Vanguard think they can use you," she said. "And what do you think? You're a criminal not to be trusted. But Orin gave you a chance." He turned to look at her. And I think you think you can bring her back," she continued. He said nothing, but he didn't look away either. R&R stood up. "As you were." So, that is this lore book. And that was pretty much my first reading of the lore books. There's other lore books as well. But I'm gonna actually, thanks for sticking with me. I'm actually gonna take a little bit of a break and then get back to some more Triumph hunting with another lore through. So thanks again. Bye.